Hey, living environment fans from near and far across the globe and points beyond, even in other dimensions. I see you. And it's Friday. Hey, a little bit of snow last night. How many of you wish we had a snow day today? Yeah, but we didn't, because you're here now watching this Bellringer and doing class. And anyway, we wrap it up. We go on a break tomorrow for a week, and we just kind of, we rest and mellow out. Took your test yesterday. Anyway, we're going to do today's Bellringer of the not so pleasant topic.
All right. Hey now. Mr. Kovacs class. It's Mr. Kovacs class. You might learn a ton. It's Mr. Kovacs class.
It's interesting too.
It's Mr. Kovacs class. And he's super cool. It's Mr. Kovacs class.
Maybe the scariest word in the English language. It's a word you never want to hear mentioned about yourself or someone you love or someone you're close to. It's a horrible, horrible thing. It has 100% to do with cell division. So today we're going to talk about the not so pleasant realities of cancer. Remember, right, when cells are going through the cell cycle, they do interphase, they get the signal, and then they copy, they do replication, the S phase, and they do mitosis, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis, and you have two normal cells, right? Well, what happens if the signal comes too early, or if a cell doesn't ever go back into interphase and keeps copying itself over and over, we usually call when that happens is called cancer. Okay? What makes different cancers different from each other is not what's happening with the cells, but where the cells are from. Okay, so brain cancer has a very different outcome than skin cancer. Cells are doing the same thing, it's just the cells that are being affected have different jobs. Therefore, they have different symptoms. All right? So it's all about the signal. The signal can come from inside the cell, outside the cell, right? Sometimes just the cell's gotten too big, but in cancers, the signal usually either comes directly from the cell itself, and it's built into the DNA, or it comes from outside the cell, and the external factors. The external factors we call carcinogens. Cancer cells are different from normal cells too because they don't get to grow and develop completely. They wind up with really weird shapes and lumps, and right when you want nice normal cells, you have cancer cells which are abnormally shaped as well as abnormally dividing. Okay, so when they do a biopsy to see if you have cancer, they will look at the cells under a microscope. And if you get nice normal cells, they'll say that you're okay. But if you get these abnormal cells, they'll say that it's evidence that you may have cancerous condition. We call lumps of cells that are okay, we call them benign. And lumps of cells that are cancerous, we usually call malignant. And benign cells usually stay put and they stick together. Cancerous malignant cells usually don't stick together very well. And their issue is that they sneak into the bloodstream and they can invade neighboring tissues, right? And then they can move, or what we call metastasize, to different parts of the body. So if you've ever heard of somebody who had cancer that moved, it's because they were a bunch of little cells that weren't sticking together very well, and they fell off into the bloodstream and just traveled through the circulatory system until they got to somewhere else. Metastasis, you got a lump of cancer cells, and then they fall off. Once they get into the bloodstream, they can travel, and they'll just move around until they get stuck somewhere else. If they get stuck, let's say you have skin cancer, but it's metastasized, those skin cancer cells can travel to your lungs and get stuck in your lungs and then grow in your lungs. So you'll have lung cancer symptoms even though the cells are actually skin cells. Hopefully that makes somewhat of sense. Skin cancer is one of the most common cancers, and the number one cause of skin cancer is exposure to ultraviolet light. Exposure to the sun, sunburns, right? There's some other risk factors too, but skin cancer. And to be honest, it's not going to sound fair, but the lighter skin, the more fair skin you are, the more risk you have for developing cancerous conditions due to exposure to sunlight. So wear that sunscreen, cover up in the sun. Really popular form of cancer, I hate to use the word popular, but common form of cancer, lung cancer. And lung cancer is when lung tissue cells start dividing and they don't stop, right? It originates in the lungs, and it's not gonna be surprising, but the number one cause of lung cancer, here's a cancerous tumor in the lung. And if you look at this lung, you can see the lung is scarred black. Okay, this is a smoker's lung, and yeah, smoking and now of course vaping are by far the number one cause of lung cancers and other lung diseases, but lung cancers in particular. Another common one that's unfortunately really common and is more likely to happen the older you get, is colon cancer, cancer of the large intestine, right? Colon cancer. And the problem with colon cancer is that there aren't that many symptoms, right? There's really not a lot of symptoms of colon cancer until it metastasizes, it moves, right? And then you've got all kinds of problems with those cancer cells building up in other places. So if you know anybody who's, I think now they recommend 45 and older, so parents or grandparents, make sure they get screened for colon cancer. Mr. Kovac does once every 3 years, right? It's not that hard. Okay, if you have cancer, how do you survive? Well, you got to take care of the problem. And one of the most common kinds of cancer treatments is just to remove through surgery, cut the things out. But there's some other, like chemotherapy you've probably heard of. That's giving drugs to a patient, and those drugs kill dividing cells. And so the idea is that cancer cells are constantly dividing. If we can kill them, we can stop the cancer. The problem with chemotherapy is you start to kill dividing cells that are supposed to be dividing. Weird things happen, like you lose your hair and stuff like that. Radiation is something else that we give cancer treatments. The idea is to pinpoint and kill the cells, make them apoptose, the cancer cells, by using high energy radiation. Right? That works pretty well. And then there's lots of other, there's immunotherapy is cutting edge. That's where you're trying to get your own immune system to recognize that you got cancer. So usually it's your own cells, so your immune system doesn't recognize cancer cells as being bad. So how can we get immune cells to recognize the antigens on cancer cells as being different from healthy cells? And that's what we are working on now. And so, yeah, lots of research into cancer treatments, okay, and cures for sure. That was a lighthearted topic. Cancer really it's a terrible, terrible thing, but it's caused by cell division. If you understand that it's caused just by abnormal, rapid cell division, and the differences between the different types of cancer are which cells are doing that rapid abnormal cell division, then it starts to make sense, and it understand how some cancers are more easily treated than others. Some cancers are more easily contracted than others. Some cancers are inherited through your DNA. Some cancers are acquired over your lifetime. And it kind of makes sense. The older you get, the more likely you are going to develop a cancer. You just have more exposure to things the more old you get. So yeah, I'm more likely to develop cancer than any of you. It doesn't mean I will. It doesn't mean you will. It doesn't mean you won't. All right? Or perhaps maybe you even have. That happens too. So anyway, let's talk more about cancer in class, and then we're going to go into our break, and everybody will be happy, and we'll come back rested.